Safer, the Utah group, and these neighborhood groups that have formed many out of the abuses that have occurred during the last 3 years here in Maricopa County by Sheriff Joe Arpaio. What we would like to do is have a 3-part press conference. The first part, we are going to be talking about the abuses. First, the civil and human rights abuses, then the abuses of the financial standing of the Sheriff's Office, and finally the abuse that Sheriff Barbeau pointed out in his investigation. Then secondly, we will make a statement concerning the federal investigation, and thirdly, we will be making a request. So first, I would like to introduce Salvador Reza with Wendell, who will talk about the human and civil rights abuses.
Thank you very much. First of all, we'd like to say that the community has already indicted Sheriff Joe Arpaio for civil rights, human rights, and international rights abuses that he has continually exercised over the population in Maricopa County. On the other hand, we are also asking that the Justice Department once and for all come in and finish that investigation and indict Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He cannot go on like this. We're the laughing stock of the world. I'm not talking about the United States, the laughing stock of the world. The damage that Sheriff Joe has caused is tremendous. We have here a Mexifornia email ID that has been emailed by sheriff deputies among themselves, making fun of the people that they arrest. And they arrested because of the racial profiling that's going on. I don't care if Sheriff Joe said that there's no racial profiling. There's constant racial profiling. We have submitted over a gigabyte of information to the Justice Department. We're just waiting for something to happen. We hope that Eric Holder would actually give that green light for Mr. Burke to finally put an end to this saga of abuse by Sheriff Joe Arpaio. The people behind me, all of them have been, in one way or another, been subject to fear. The children cry now whenever they hear the name Joe Arpaio. They hear Joe Arpaio and they start crying. That's how bad it is. Thank you very much.
Now you will hear from Randy Pareja, who has been very, very vocal in protecting the finances of the county, and Chad Snow.
All right, this is a great day for Maricopa County, because finally we're starting to look at what really impacts all of us, whether you're Republican, a Democrat, an independent. It's our taxpayer money. In June of 2008, over 500 people filled this chamber, and they came here because they're interested in what the corruption, the abuse of power that was taking place in the Sheriff's Department. Under the banner of Maricopa Citizens for Safety and Accountability, we came before this board to start telling them we needed an audit. We need certain things to happen. Chairman Canassis acted as if he's been enlightened now he's doing this audit. It was because citizens came forward and said, where are our tax dollars being spent? And so now, two and a half years later, over about $100 million of illegally misspent funds of our taxpayer dollars. And Chairman Canassis is on record saying, oh, that money's going to come out of the general fund. This is not his general fund. This is the general fund of the taxpayers of Maricopa County. It's as if, no, Sheriff Arpaio creates all these special accounts and funds, and it's really cute to talk about pink underwear and pink handcuffs, right? We're talking about $100 million. What's he going to create next? The Sheriff Arpaio, I can do whatever I want fund? The Sheriff Arpaio, I'm a failed leadership fund? The Sheriff Arpaio, it's my money fund? This is time for accountability. Finally, after 2.5 years, Sheriff Arpaio is held accountable. And it's fascinating to me that this is the man that came before this board on that day and said, after we all left, and said, this is my budget, this is my money, you don't tell me what to do. I'm Sheriff Arpaio. Oh, he had the time then to come before the board and look at them in the eye and kind of say, you don't touch my money. Well, Sheriff Arpaio, this is our money, this is our time, and this is the beginning. Today marks the beginning of the end of Sheriff Arpaio as a top law enforcement officer in Maricopa County.
Thank you. My name is Chad Snow. I'm a member of Maricopa Citizens for Safety and Accountability. In the last 5 years, Joe Arpaio has arrested and jailed journalists who had the courage to write articles about him. He's arrested and jailed political opponents who asked for more accountability from him. He's arrested dozens of citizens in this very chamber for speaking out against him, and he's even had the audacity to arrest and go after judges who had the temerity to rule against him. These things have all happened in the last 5 years in Maricopa County. And Joe Arpaio would have us believe that these were the workings of some of his rogue chief deputies acting alone, without his knowledge. Nothing could be further from the truth. Joe Arpaio had his hand in every single one of these abuses. Sheila Polk, the Republican county attorney from Yavapai County, who Joe Arpaio handpicked to handle the Stapley and Wilcox cases, said, "I can no longer sit by quietly and watch from a distance the abuses of power by Sheriff Arpaio." Not Dave Hendershot, not Larry Black, Joe Arpaio. He was intimately involved in the details of every single one of those instances. Now, if these breathtaking abuses of constitutional rights happened anywhere else in the country, there would be outrage. There would be elected officials calling for resignations. People would be demanding criminal investigations and justice. And I'm here to call out some of our elected leaders. Terry Goddard, where were you for the last 2 years of your term that these things were going on your watch? Dennis Burke, the U.S. attorney right now, has had these cases for 2.5 years. Mr. Burke, I would ask you, what is happening? Where is the justice? Bill Montgomery and Tom Horn, our current county attorney and state attorney general, they also are accountable for these things. And I do want to commend Mary Rose Wilcox, Don Stapley, Sheila Polk, Phil Gordon, some of the elected officials who have had the courage to speak against Joe Arpaio. And I want to point out, this isn't anything partisan. This has nothing to do with politics. Those names I just mentioned, there's 2 Republicans, there's 2 Democrats. Those are people who have had the courage to speak out against Joe Arpaio. Now, if Mr. Arpaio thinks that he can fire 2 of his deputies and play dumb and sweep these things under the rug, he's very mistaken. We are going to keep pressuring state and county and local and federal leaders to hold him accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to have the rest of the press conference, but I'd like to, for just one moment, recognize Representative Ruben Gallegos, who's joined us here today. Ruben, would you like to say a few words?
I just want to echo what Mr. Snow said. In any other state, in any other city, the abuses of power, the mismanagement of funds would have had Sheriff Joe arrested by now, or he would have been forced to resign. I'm down at the State House fighting for the county every day to make sure the state does not raid their funds. I always argue saying that the county takes care of better of their funds than the state, so why are we going to raid them? Well, if they're not holding their own people accountable, I don't think I necessarily can make that argument anymore at the State House, and I'm certainly not going to be encouraging other of my fellow state representatives to be doing the same thing, because if you cannot hold your own people accountable, then at some point someone else is going to have to, and I hope that with that, Sheriff Joe does take the message. It's time for him to resign. It's time to have honest leadership at the Sheriff's Office here in Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you. You now heard about the human and civil rights abuses in the community. We all heard about the raids. We all lived through the raids, particularly areas in our community that are heavily Hispanic, and we will not tolerate that anymore. You've heard about the financial abuses. Randy's outlined the tremendous amounts of revenue that have been misused, misappropriated, and the corruption that took place with that. The Babu report has been out, and I couldn't have said it any clearer than Bob Robb said this morning. An investigation by Pinal County Sheriff Paul Babu documented an ethical cesspool in Arpaio's office. We have known that, we have lived through that, and when you read the report, time after time, there are instances in this report where his staff did involve Arpaio. Loretta Barcal, in one of the instances, told him that things needed attention. He did not give it any attention. Hendershot told him that we needed to get documents to the board so that we could discover what was going on with the finances. That did not occur. Time after time, this report justifies that that office was being run in a corrupt manner. It was being run in a manner that was fast losing any credibility. So we are combining the 3 issues, the civil and human rights issues, the financial misuse of county funds, and the corruption pointed out in the Babu report, to call on our federal government and tell the federal government, you need to intervene immediately. We have given you all this information. Dennis Burke, our U.S. attorney, has this information. Grand juries have been impaneled. We have been living with this for the last 2.5 years. Grand juries are ready to come forward. Dennis Burke, we appeal to you, move. Eric Holder, we appeal to you, give Dennis the resources to move, And President Obama, we appeal to you, help Arizona get back to normalcy. We had a major address yesterday on immigration reform. Yes, we need it, but we do not need to be terrorized here in Arizona. My fellow colleague, Don Stapley, wrote a letter to the president last week asking for the very same things, that the federal government move. And because of all of these actions that you have heard from us, and in not only today, but in the past, of all of the people who have been terrorized, the county money that has been abused, the Maricopa County taxpayers who have not had any accountability for that money, we are asking for the resignation of Sheriff Arpaio. Sheriff, do the right thing and resign. Salvador?
Well, just to finish it off, I want to tell you about this cartoon by Benson today. Everybody should look at it. It basically says, Arpaio says, what my copmates have done, stinks to high heaven. And then the odor is corruption on the back. I think that in itself talks about what's going on today in Maricopa County. And I think the community is fed up with it at all levels. It's time to stop it. It's time for the federal government to come in. We ask again, like Mary Rose said, for the federal government to come and exercise receivership over the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Finally, I just want to add, anytime we have a neighboring sheriff in the county, Pinal County, that we did not elect, did not appoint, making recommendations that our elected sheriff, who's paid our taxpayer, then implement in terms of firing his own chief of staff, you got to wonder what is going on in MCSO. It is time for Sheriff Arpaio to resign. It's a time for him to step down. He is incompetent. He's unable to manage his own people, his own chief of staff. So every time we look at the report and you see the word David Hendershot, put Sheriff Arpaio. Every time you see the word Fox, put Sheriff Arpaio. Sheriff Arpaio is the man responsible, and we say, what, Sheriff Arpaio, where are you now?
In conclusion, we ask again 3 points. The federal government intervene, get this done with, get these indictments hopefully put forward, if that's where we're going to go, and let us move. And if you do that, put Maricopa County Sheriff's Office in receivership for the good of Maricopa County. And thirdly, we ask that Sheriff Arpaio do the decent thing and resign, and again, get back to normalcy. We also appeal to people in the community who believe as we do to address the federal government and also the sheriff and join us in the calling of the resignation of Joe Arpaio. Thank you very much. Yeah, we will take questions and answers.